Hello everyone, Raj here. I hope all of you are doing well. In today's video, I'll be sharing with you all the fragrances that are my most worn over the last, well, not really the last year, but probably like the last year and a half. You know, I've been off YouTube for a while, so I thought I'd look back over a longer time period and share all of the fragrances I've worn the most with you. All of these have come from my full-size bottle collection. There were some samples and some decants that I went through as well, but I thought I'd just show full-size bottles. So this video will be part of a playlist which is full of like top 10s or top 5s or list videos. I also have multiple other playlists as well for like individual brand reviews and other things like that if you want to check them out. All of the fragrances that I will mention will be down below in the description along with the timeline. So let's kick things off with the first fragrance. Fragrance number one, and probably the second fragrance as well, are probably the top two. The rest are not so much in order, but the first two are probably in order. This is coming from the house of Chanel. This is Pour Monsieur, and this is the Eau de Toilette. And as you can see, it's completely, well, there's a couple of drops left, I suppose, a few sprays, but I've completely gone through this bottle, and it's just, I think this fragrance is absolutely phenomenal. Chanel Pour Monsieur has always been on my radar, but you know, it took me a long time before I actually bought a bottle, so I feel kind of quite late to the party. But it quickly grew to a absolute love. I'm tempted to buy the Eau de Parfum as well, and along with the EDT, and maybe actually just own them together. Normally I would buy the EDT and then go to the EDP. I might just buy them both actually. I have quite strong memories of wearing this in Greece, in Athens, because I bought this at the airport and then, you know, was wearing this a lot while on holiday. And so I always remember this. Fragrances and holidays always go well together because you create different memories there, and it can remind you of a nice time, even from several years ago. And I remember spraying this in the room, in my hotel room, a lot. You need to probably spray a lot of this as well, or reapply. It's one of those types of fragrances. And I remember, you know, coming home after a night out and smelling this in the air of my hotel room, and remembering just how like unbelievable this smelled. Very fresh, aldehydic, very smoky, herbal, grassy. It's got a mossiness as well. Citric. It's I think it's the ultimate in sophistication. It's a really fantastic fragrance. Chanel Pour Monsieur. The next fragrance is from the house of Boucheron, and this bottle is actually completely done. This is simply called Boucheron Pour Homme, the Eau de Toilette. Tempted to go for the EDP actually, just to do a comparison. Really classy fragrance. Again, quite simple, but it does have layers to it. I think there is some depth in here. Nice lemon, kind of powdery lemon sherbet, fizzy, mixed in with some aromatic. Again, that kind of like classic men's cologne kind of feel to this. It's got an aromatic citrus feel, a bit woody, a bit musky as well. Performs well on the skin, and it's a very easy to reach fragrance. That's why I've completely finished the bottle, because there were times when you just don't want to spend, you know, half an hour trying to decide your scent of the day. So this is a very easy to reach for fragrance. It works in lots of different scenarios, and again, very classy, very affordable fragrance, and I highly recommend it. I'm tempted to get, as I said, the EDP and maybe Jaipur Pour Homme. That's the EDP version, I think, because I think Boucheron are a really good house. Worth checking out. Moving on to now a discontinued fragrance, and I suppose at this point in time, a vintage fragrance. This is Yves Saint Laurent. This one is Rive Gauche. This particular version is the Eau de Toilette Intense version. And again, I really love this, I've got to say. Oh, it's so uplifting. It's very, there's herbal notes, there's rosemary, there's a cold, spicy, I'm sure there's a star anise note in here. I need to double check the note breakdown, but I get some similarities in some ways to YSL Opium, and I'm sure in Opium Pour Homme there's a star anise note, and I'm picking up on that cool spice. It's completely different in the sense that this is again aromatic, mossy, fougere fragrance. A touch of lavender in there as well. It's very soapy. It smells like a really nice shaving soap. I would have loved to have, if YSL ever did this in like a shaving soap or like an aftershave balm, I would have loved to have got this in that. And you know what? This fragrance, I used to have this one, the original, the EDT, not the intense version, in this bottle design, this kind of aluminium can bottle. And I remember going into a chemist's here in London and buying it for like £15, maybe £20. It was that cheap. And then I had this version also in the cubed, was it called La Collection or something like that? They reproduced it, and M7 and Jazz and all of that was in that square bottle, and then and then it was all downhill from YSL. But I wish they would still produce that fragrance. But while I have that, I'll enjoy the fragrance, and if I can get another one on eBay, I'm tempted to stock up, because you never know. They're very, very rare, so you never know when you'll find another one. Next fragrance on the list, I won't spend too much time talking about this because I've mentioned it so many times on my channel before, but this is an absolute classic in my eyes. This is Guerlain Vetiver. As you can see, guys, I'm putting some dents into these bottles. I'm actually wearing the fragrances that you own, believe it or not. You sometimes see fragrance reviewers where every bottle is like up to there, that it's hardly worn. And I understand, it's not a criticism as such, I'm just saying that you got to wear your fragrances, right? What's the point of owning all this stuff and spending all this money? Again, going back to holiday memories, I took this with me to Havana in Cuba, and doing like 20 sprays in the morning and going out and smoking cigars and drinking mojitos and just walking around in the sun and the humidity and soaking up the streets of Havana and everything it had to deliver, and all the colors and the sounds, and just I just loved it. This really does remind me of that holiday. It's a Vetiver fragrance. It's grassy. It's there's a bit of freshness in here actually as well. There is a tobacco note actually, which makes this kind of green and aromatic and spicy, and it's a real beauty. There is a new version of this, the Parfum. I've never tried it, but if you guys have, let me know your thoughts, and let me know your thoughts on the original. The next fragrance is another one that I've mentioned a few times on my channel, so I won't say too much again, but this is from the house of Hermes. This is Equipage, pretty much down to the end of this fragrance, and it's a beauty. It's really just, I'm not going to talk about the notes or anything, but I believe this was the first fragrance that was marketed towards men in the Hermes line. It has held up, I think, really, really, really well. I have seen vintage bottles online, and I'm tempted to maybe dip my toe into that side of the vintage market for this fragrance, but this has held up really well. The quality of the ingredients really shine through. I think Hermes, when it comes to ingredients, and I'll probably throw in like a Chanel in there as well. Those are two houses to go to when you want to just experience the quality of materials, and that's surprisingly not something that you'll always find in expensive or niche fragrances, but those two houses are fantastic. Equipage, there is a Geranium version which is fantastic, but I prefer this one. Moving on now to the house of Christian Dior, and this one is Eau Sauvage Parfum. This is the more recent version. I say recent, I think 2017. I think there was a 2012 and a 2017. I might be getting the years mixed up, but I had both. And this one certainly stays more faithful to the original composition that came out in the 60s. And that was actually the intention of Dior to, maybe they felt that they strayed too far away from the original DNA. This is amazing. I mean, it has presence, it has sillage, it has the performance that you want, it has the scent quality that you want. It's really classy. It's got green notes, it's aromatic, it has that bright bergamot that you have to have in any version of Eau Sauvage. And it's woody and resinous as well, and it adds a real kind of much needed depth, I would say, to Eau Sauvage. I mean, there is a beauty and simplicity, But I think the fact that they have offered this, which adds more depth to the original, is great, because you could have, you know, the original, you could have the extreme version, the cologne version, the parfum version, and just get a whole array of styles, but still within that Eau Sauvage DNA. It's a real classic. I do hope that Dior continue making this entire line. You never know nowadays. I mean, would Eau Sauvage ever be discontinued? That would be crazy. But, you know, big name brands and big name fragrances within those brands have been discontinued. So I don't know. I think they will continue it. Really classy bottle as well. I love that they've stuck with this design. It's a great fragrance. Next up is a fragrance that I love all of these. Obviously, I wouldn't be wearing them so much, but this one is just, it's amazing. From the house of Caron. This is the third man, Troisième Homme, and man, this is really, really growing on me. I've always liked it, but the more I wear it, the more I enjoy it. Maybe the more air gets into this bottle, the better it becomes. Lavender, man, it's fresh, it's soapy, it's a little bit lemony as well, herbal, aromatic. There's maybe some rosemary in here as well. I'm sure I've reviewed this. I must have mentioned that. I must have mentioned it, but yeah, it's classic. It's a little bit creamy as well. It's like a creamy citrus. It performs really nicely on the skin. It's not a huge beast, but it's a classy performance. You know, it's not a screamer. It works, I think, in more if you wear this in like a work setting or you're wearing a suit, I think it works really, really well. But I mean, I've worn this casually as well, but I just think that in more elegant or slightly more professional settings, this one works a treat. Caron is a really, really good house, and I have a few fragrances from them as well. Pour un Homme, L'Anarchiste as well, and yeah, it's a classic house, that's for sure. Moving on to a British brand. This one is called Vetiver Insolent or Insolent. This is from the house of Miller Harris. And Miller Harris is one of those maybe slightly lesser known brands in the industry. I would kind of put it in the same family, or not family, but in the same bracket as a diptyque. It doesn't have the mass appeal of a diptyque, but like a diptyque, a Penhaligon's, a L'Artisan Parfumeur, a Annick Goutal. It's kind of that kind of style. Like, they just want to produce niche fragrances, good quality fragrances with good ingredients, nothing flashy or not trying to be too flashy, just well-made scents that are just, yeah, as I said, really, really well put together. This one is a dry, spicy vetiver. I'm sure I get a little bit of cardamom in here. I'm not sure if that's in the note breakdown, but a very dry, rooty vetiver. Nothing too uplifting. It's a real powerful fragrance, actually. I had this fragrance on loan. Somebody had it, and then I got it back, and I didn't realize just how spicy that was. Very earthy mix as well. It's a nice alternative, I think, to the Guerlain Vetiver. I still think the Guerlain is like that reference vetiver in the industry, or in the fragrance kind of world. But this is a really good one. I quite like this. A little bit leathery, a little bit oily. It's quite nice without being too sort of outrageous and in your face. But it's a good one. Really worth checking out. Do you guys know this fragrance? Have you checked out the house of Miller Harris? I've had a few fragrances from them before, a handful, and they've always been really, really good. Okay, moving on to the next one from the house of Frederic Malle. This one is Geranium pour Monsieur. I think if you follow or have been following me, you will know that I'm a big fan of this one. As you can see, I'm pretty much just under halfway. This was, ever since I got into the house of Frederic Malle, I believe this was my first one that I bought, and it's always been one of my favorites. I am, if I'm honest, nowadays struggling to justify the prices of Frederic Malle, but this one, with its sort of minty, uplifting geranium note breakdown just works so well in spring and summer. It's very, very classy. Inspired actually by a mouthwash of all things. And it's a Dominique Ropillon creation. It has this crispness to it. It has a white musk feel to it as well, a little bit woody, and is somehow not. What am I trying to say here? It somehow works as being fresh and invigorating, but classy at the same time. Like, I feel like I could go out to a nice evening, a nice dinner on a summer evening and wear a fragrance like this. Whereas normally I would go for something a little bit more heavier, but actually I think this would work really, really well. And it does work. I have worn it in those scenarios. Great fragrance, Frederic Malle, Geranium pour Monsieur. And the final fragrance on this list is from the house of Tom Ford, and this one is Tom Ford Noir. And I don't know if you can actually tell, but I'm just under halfway through this bottle, and this is a beauty. I really, this fragrance, talking of fragrances to wear in the evening time, I pretty much exclusively wore this on evening times, going out for dinners, dates, that kind of stuff. But I've somehow seem to wear this more during the day now. It seems to work equally as well. It's very dry, very base note heavy, I find. There's no freshness or anything like that. It's very classically Tom Ford, patchouli, powdery notes. I get a kind of like a touch of smokiness in here. It is a slightly darker fragrance, but not too crazy. Quintessentially Tom Ford. I think this goes along very, very well with Noir de Noir, with Oud Wood, with Black Orchid. In that style, I think this is definitely that type of style. And when I think of Tom Ford fragrances, I think of Noir and all of those other ones I mentioned. It's fantastic. It really, really is. Woody, I'm glad to see that it's still around in the signature line. And that is a more affordable line, relatively speaking, compared to the private blend, but it's definitely one of those that I think, to be honest, is better than some of the private blends. It's a great fragrance. Have you checked it out? Okay everyone, thank you so much for watching. Let me know, what are your most worn fragrances? Have you tried any of these? What are your thoughts? Whatever you have to say, drop it down below in the comments section, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching everyone. Bye.